Some of you may remember me sharing this story, but back in July of 2000, about 1 year after I was a follower of Christ, I was just in a really tough place in my walk with God. I was on the verge of drifting backwards in my relationship with Him. And one day I was so discouraged that I decided to just get in my car and I drove home for lunch to our home in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And I just sprawled out on the floor in our upstairs bedroom and I bawled my eyes out that day. Because I spent that time questioning how in the world could God save a mess like me, someone who wasn't living all that Christ-centered at that moment. I was scared, I was broken about how I felt, and I spent that hour with my face buried in the carpet, just begging God to speak into that area of my life. And then I had to get in the car to get back to work, and so I got in the car, and a song came on the radio that morning. It was a song by CeCe Winans. It was called Mercy Said No. And I'll never forget those words that came over the radio that day. As I've come to see the weaker side of me, I realize His grace is what I'll need. When sin demanded justice for my soul, mercy said no. I'm not going to let you go. I'm not going to let you slip away. You don't have to be afraid. Mercy said no. Sin will never take control. Life and death stood face to face. Darkness tried to steal my heart away. Thank you, Jesus. Mercy said no. Man, I'm telling you, I had never even liked the song until that day. And I listened to it this morning in prep of the sermon, and I still don't like the song. But that day, it felt as if God were speaking those words directly to my heart. And I just bawled some more as I drove back to work that day. But this time it was tears of joy, because that was the day that I finally got it through my thick head and my thick heart that the power of the gospel is not limited by my faults and my failures. That day was a game changer. It's the last time that I can honestly remember doubting my salvation in Jesus, because I finally understood, I finally got it, that the power of the gospel means that God is not looking for me to add anything to the finished work of Jesus on the cross. Salvation doesn't rest on my works. It rests on the finished work of Jesus on my behalf. But I wasn't the first person to wrestle with that struggle. In fact, the Apostle Paul wrote a letter to the churches in Galatia to address a very similar issue. See, in the book of Galatians, Paul was writing to churches that he and his buddy Barnabas had started years earlier, and Paul was writing because the church was on the verge of getting really messed up.